Today, you are going to get a front row seat to the amazing Springbok career of Tri-Nations champion Andre Snyman. Andre, welcome to Front Row Rugby.
Good morning, Peter. How are you doing?
Good, thank you very much, and thank you very much for your time. But before we begin our conversation, let's take a look at today's trivia question. In 2002, the Springboks played a test match at the PAM Brink Stadium in Springs. Who were the opponents that day? Now, if you know the answer to the question, you can put it in the comment section down below, and we'll also find out if Andre knows the answer, but we'll do that at the end of our conversation. Andre, I'd like to begin in 1996. Talk to us about how you were feeling ahead of your Springbok Test debut against the All Blacks in Durban.
Well, pretty nervous, I must say. It was quite an interesting the way I got called up to that test under my debut. We all... at the time, I was playing for the Blue Bulls, and we as teammates got together and we decided, you know what, let's have like a bit of a boys' night out on, I think it was like the Tuesday night or the Wednesday night, and we met up at somebody's home and we played a little bit of card games and we had a few drinks and everything. And and then literally that morning at about 5 o'clock, my phone rang, and Vinnie Stradom, who was a team manager at the time, just gave me a call and said, listen, where are you? You better pack your bags and you're heading down to Durban. And I was like, sorry, what did you say? He's like, yeah, no, you've been called up to join the Springbok team. Peter Yapi Mulder at the time, his back was not healing from an injury. And you're going to be starting the test against the All Blacks. So yeah, it was a bit of a scramble, trying to get my bags packed and get ready. And like within 3-4 hours, I was on a plane flying to Durban from Pretoria and joining the team down in Durban at the time. And luckily, Donnie van Schalkwyk was there, so he was my teammate in the Blue Bulls. So there was some familiar faces, and just walking into a team with Henny Leroux and Andre Joubert and all those guys as a youngster. You know, it was a big moment for me, and and leading up to the game, just the training sessions. I didn't have much. I literally just had a captain's run to get familiar with all the plays and the moves and the game plan and structure at the time. And so I was very nervous. And Coach Nick Mallett just said to me, Andre Markgraaf at the time, he just said to me, you know what, Andre, just play your game. Just focus on what you control, focus on your game. And that gave me a little bit of confidence and a little bit of surety. And he just said, you know what, you're here because of the way you play, not because of the way you fit into a game plan or you know how to do this or that or anything. He just says, you're here because I believe in you. And that gave me a lot of almost like positive energy just to calm down and settle the nerves. But hey, it's a test game. There'll always be nerves. There'll always be that not knowing what's coming your way kind of thing. So, but yeah, it was probably, I don't want to use the word terrifying, but it was scary, as a youngster to stand in front of the All Blacks that you've been watching your whole life, and all of a sudden you start playing with some of your childhood heroes, and you're all of a sudden in the same team as them. So. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the game is a game. The size of the ball doesn't change. The size of the field doesn't change. The rules doesn't change. Once you're on the field, everything felt familiar. And it was just pretty much play your game, play rugby. So it was a memorable moment. Let's say that.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, why not consider becoming a patron? It's my dream, guys, to do this full time, and with a small financial contribution, you can help me realize that dream. The link and the QR code is appearing on your screen right now, and I'll also put it down in the description area for you to go and click on at a later stage if you would like to do so. And by becoming a patron, I promise there will be great benefits for members. Now let's get back to the interview. So I've got to ask you, Andre, there are people who say that it's better not to make your debut against the All Blacks. Maybe it's easier to play your first Springbok test match against maybe like a Scotland or an Italy. What do you say?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, everybody's got to cross that bridge, and everybody's got to obviously play their debut. Yes, I agree. There could be. It's probably an easier game to play against those countries that you mentioned. At the time, the All Blacks was obviously and still are a formidable force. So yes, of course, the difference in the level and the intensity of the game is going to be different playing against the All Blacks or the Australia or France or England versus a Portugal, for example, or Italy, for example. I mean, in those days, the teams like Scotland and Ireland, they weren't as powerhouses than what they are now. So at the time, 10 years ago, those teams were looked down upon. And I don't think that is the case right now. I think teams like Ireland and Scotland, I mean, as you can see, Ireland is number 2 in the world. I mean, there's no more easy games. I mean, even if you look at the game on the weekend, South Africa versus Portugal, I honestly thought that first 10 minutes, Portugal was right up there with South Africa. Yes, people can argue and say it wasn't South Africa's strongest team, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, if you want to wear the green and gold, you have to be the best in your position. So, but yeah, I mean, playing your debut, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a big moment for any player. Playing it against a top nation is obviously a little bit more special than playing against a tier 2 nation. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's what you make of it. All I can say is that game goes by very fast. I mean, before you blink, it's halftime, and if you blink again, it's the end of the game because the adrenaline is so high. You just nervous. It's just you're in the moment and everything. So and then your first test, you can hardly remember anything because there's just so much going on in your head. You don't want to make mistakes. You want to try and impress the coach. You want to impress your teammates. It just flies by very quickly. And then I would say probably roundabout, if you've played like 5 tests, maybe that's when you start settling in and your nerves are calming down and you know what to expect. You know what it's like, the feeling, the pressure, the crowd, because at the end of the day, that's a big thing is the crowd, because playing for your club or for your province, you get maybe 20,000 people in the crowd. But then you go to a stadium and you start playing international rugby, all of a sudden we're talking 40, 50, 60, maybe even more, 1,000 people. So the noise level, the crowds, it's just a different surrounding, and you got to wrap your head around that, knowing that, okay, hang on a second. I can't hear my fly off. I mean, he screams a move, but I can't hear him because it's so loud and noisy. So it changes, that's the atmosphere that you got to get used to as well. It's not just the actual game, but playing against those teams debut. I mean, I think it's an honor to play against a team like the All Blacks, Australia, England, Ireland. If you can play your debut against one of those teams, I think it's a real privilege.
And then, of course, we lost that test match in Durban and then the following test at Loftus as well, unfortunately. And that meant that we became the first Springbok team in history to lose a home series against New Zealand. How disappointing was that?
Yes, it was disappointing. I mean, it's obviously as a team, we thought we had it. It was close games. There was a lot of disruptions and everything at the time. It was also the same time when the whole politics came in. About the quota players, and there was a lot of talk between the players, what it's going to look like. So I think maybe subconsciously that played a role in our minds behind the scenes about what is the future of the game going to look like for us as players, with the politics getting involved pretty heavily at the time. And we also had that whole situation with Andre Markgraaff making a racial comment and everything. So it definitely, behind the scenes, it played a role on us players. And I think maybe we weren't as focused on task at hand, which was winning the games or give a good performance. I mean, we were disappointed, but at the end of the day, the destiny was in our hands, and we didn't perform at the time. But yeah, I mean, luckily we bounced back after that, and we won 17 in a row then. So.
And we're going to talk about those in a moment. But just speaking about Markgraaff, and I know that you were one of the youngsters in the team, one of the new guys at that stage, but what was your reaction to him dropping Francois Pienaar?
I mean, we were shocked. I mean, because obviously Francois is a great man. He's a great leader, but each to their own. I think coming off of the World Cup '95 win, Francois may have had ulterior motives with his future, and whether it was staying in South Africa, whether it was starting businesses or etc. But it doesn't make him. I honestly didn't think it was necessary to do it that dramatically, but at the end of the day, he was getting to the end of his career, and then unfortunately, that's every player's. That's your ex. You get to a point where the coaches look at you as like, okay, you're experienced, but you're getting maybe a little bit old, or we need to bring in the young bloods and the young guns and stuff like that. So that's unfortunately one of our rugby players, like Achilles' heel, so to speak, is like the young and upcoming players that are sometimes faster, stronger than you. And I think that was the case potentially, where guys like Gary Teichmann and those guys were coming through as well. Not that Gary was young at the time, but he was the future leader. And Francois had his run. It was maybe time for something new. I mean, what exactly the reason was, we never know. But it was a bit of a shock to us to get rid of a brilliant leader. I've got a really great respect for Francois. But it was maybe just the time. It was just his time to say, bow out on top of his game, bow out as a great captain, and say, okay, you know what, I've done my best for the country. Let someone else take over. And but yeah, it was a bit of a shock to all of us. But at the end of the day, we just got to stay together and support the coach's decision and move on.
And then it wasn't long after that Markgraaff was out, as you mentioned earlier. He was replaced by Karel du Plessis. The first test was against Tonga in Cape Town. I think it was on a Tuesday night, actually, but a memorable one for you, scoring a hat-trick. How special was that?
That was pretty special. I didn't expect that. I mean, Karel du Plessis came in and he immediately pulled me aside and he just told me, Andre, I don't think you're a center, you're a winger. And I looked at him and I was like, I played my whole career, always a center. And he tried to force me to be a winger. And yes, I had a bit of speed, but I mean, I didn't feel very comfortable on the wing at the time. But you know what? Wearing that green and gold jersey, you'll play any position, as long as you can wear it. So it took me a while to get used to the fact that the coach wants me to be a winger. But you know what? I said, okay, fine. It's a challenge. Let's do it. And then he put me on the wing. And yeah, I mean, it worked out that game. I mean, for that game, obviously scoring 3 tries, I try to use some of my center abilities, finding space and everything. And then as a winger, you got to finish. And I think the two actually work well together by me trying to find space and stuff. But then again, the rest of the team, if you look at the tries that I scored, it's not really great individual tries. It was like tries I just had to catch the ball and finish it. The rest of the team did most of the hard work to get me in a position where I just have to touch the ball and score. So yeah, I mean, it was a great moment for me to score 3 tries in a game. But then again, at the time, Tonga wasn't very a strong team, so no disrespect to Tonga. But we were definitely the favorites to win that game. But yeah, I mean, that was my start of my, so to speak, wing career. But yeah, I mean, Karel, he had a weird vision. He was a great technical coach. Yeah, he played me out of position. He played Percy Montgomery out of position. He played a lot of players in the back line out of position. And if you look at I'm not sure what our win ratio was at the time under his coaching time. But yeah, it was difficult, to try and play out of position. And you've been your whole career, you play in one position. All of a sudden, he's asking you to play in a different position. But yeah, I mean, that test, and then we went straight into the test series afterwards against the Lions. The same thing happened there as well, where I was flip-flop from left wing to right wing to center to left wing. It was just crazy. I mean, because he had all these ideas, and some of them worked and some didn't.
Indeed. Now, speaking of that test series against the British and Irish Lions, Andre, I've had quite a few former Springboks on this show who were part of that 1997 team, and pretty much to a man, they've all told me we should never have lost that series. What do you say?
No, absolutely. I mean, we were so confident on it, we went out there, we played well, and then, like I said, I mean, we were right up there, and then unfortunately we just lost by a drop goal. It was just I don't know whether it was lack of concentration or what, but fair play to Jeremy Gascott for hitting that drop goal. I mean, he saw the moment, he took it. He saw opportunity, and that was it. But I mean, the British Lions played pretty well. I mean, they really played well. They came at us all guns blazing, and but like I said, we were a very young team in terms of, if I say young team, I mean by players playing together, because we had so many changes. I think the statistics show that out of those 3 test matches, there was only, I think, 5 players, I think it was 5 players that played all 3 tests. Every test was a different team. It was myself, Joos van der Westhuizen, Os Durant, Mark Andrews, and I'm not sure, but I think it was like 4 or 5 players that played all 3 tests. Otherwise, every test was a different team. So, I mean, as you know, I mean, consistency creates victory. I mean, if you want to be consistent, you will win games. And by picking a brand new team for every test, I mean, there's no consistency. So obviously, you're putting yourself under pressure, in terms of combinations. I mean, like, what's his name? The center, Eric, he came in as a kicker, and he came in and played 1 game and never saw him again, and it's just those kind of things that if a coach does that, you start doubting yourself, and you're like, hold on a second, what's going on here? Why can't we get continuity? And so, we played well. Should we won the series? I beg to differ. I mean, by changing every game, every team, you're not creating consistency. So the chances that you're going to probably win is less. Could we have won the series? Yes, we could have, because I think we had the players to. But chopping and changing every test a different team, that I think was our downfall.
And then I think it's fair to say that the Tri-Nations was disappointing. We lost to the All Blacks at Ellis Park, and then 2 heavy defeats away from home, especially against New Zealand. But then we did come back home, and we gave the Wallabies a proper hiding at Loftus to finish off. How memorable was that occasion?
No, absolutely great. I mean, like I say, coming off of that test series, we were all very disappointed, and a lot of doubt in the coaching staff, a lot of doubt in certain players. Obviously traveling with that baggage, chip on our shoulders to New Zealand and Australia, wasn't great. It wasn't great. But, I can't remember what the turning point was. But yeah, we came back from that tour, and we started playing the game against Australia and Loftus, and somehow it just clicked. Everything just worked well. Everything just clicked. And I think that could potentially, maybe Australia had a bad day, and that was our turning point for us. But yeah, it was great to have that victory, and just knowing that, hey, we are still capable of winning games. We must just stick to it, believe in ourselves, and find the right combinations in players, because whether you want to believe it or not, it plays a huge role. The chemistry in the team, the connection between players. I mean, that's part of the winning success. It's part of a team winning is the chemistry in the team.
And then Nick Mallett came in to replace Carl after that, and the team did very well on that 1997 end-of-year tour, some really big victories. I think the win over England might have been the smallest margin of victory, actually, at Twickenham. Nevertheless, what was it that Nick brought to that Springbok camp that made such a big difference?
I think, first of all, is his passion. I mean, he's passionate about the game. He loves the game. He understood the game. and his passion and the way he explained things to us and everything, so, and I think all the players saw his passion for coaching and saw that he wants us to be better. And then as we went through the first season with him and the second, then we realized as well where Nick, for me personally, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I felt Nick made us believe that you are the best player in that position. So that gave us, as a player, a huge confidence that, yes, I might have a bad day or a bad game, but it's not necessary that he's going to X me or drop me from the team. He'll come to you and just say to you, hey, Andre, as an example, hey, Andre, I didn't think you played your best game, but let's work on what you didn't do well, and let's go out there in the next Saturday and let's perform and try and fix those things. So for me, it made me believe that I'm secure in my position. I don't have to worry about my position. Am I going to be replaced or anything? And he also created a consistency in team selection. So it was always the same team. Whether you get injured, you'll go away, you get recovery. When you come back, you go straight back into your position. It's not like you have to fight for your jersey again. He had his 1 to 15, and that's it. And I think that, to me, was the biggest success as a player, knowing that jersey is my jersey. And he was very consistent. He did the same thing over and over. Team selections was always the same. He will make 1 or 2 changes. He won't make 5, 6, 7 changes. So yeah, for me, to wrap it up in a nutshell, it was his fact that he was very consistent and he didn't make a lot of changes. And he made us believe that we are the best player in that position.
And then the winning continued into 1998. I'd like to single out some of those victories, many of them memorable moments in Springbok history now. Let's start with that match in Wellington against the All Blacks when Pieter Rousseau scored that late try. Tell me a little bit about that victory.
Yeah, that was a tough game. I mean, I think the final score was like 9-6 or something like that. It was a tight game. I mean, it was one of those games where we had to win, to stay alive and everything. It was a horrible game. It was very windy. It was muddy. It was sloshy. It was, but it was a tough game, and and we just had to stay within our game plan. And, Nick just said, just do the small things right, do the small things right, and we will win the game. And that particular move, that where Pieter Rousseau scored under the post, we actually, James Small came up with that move literally on the Thursday afternoon, like just before captain's run. He came up with this move. I don't know where he saw it, where he came to about it. And he just went to Henry Honeyball and said, right, this is what we need to do. We practiced it over and over and over and over. And yeah, and it just funny how we believed in it. And when the cards were on the table, we said, right, this is our opportunity. Let's do it. If anything fails, we've still got 70 yards to recover. So because we were like 10 yards from their try line, if anything goes wrong, they have to go 80 yards down the field to score a try or to get points. So if we drop a ball or get tackled or anything, we've got a safety net behind us. And we called the move. We just looked at each other and we like, okay, let's get it done. And it came off and it worked perfectly. And Peter scored under the post and we won the game. So yeah, it was a pretty sweet day. Pretty sweet day.
And at 4:30 in the morning, it was pretty cool as well. Let me tell you from. So, Andre, we played the same opponents a couple of weeks later in Durban. We were 23-5 down with, I think it was about 12 minutes to go, and then just the most incredible comeback. Tell me about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know how to explain that one to you. I mean, it was incredible. We leading up to that game, the coaching staff spoke to us and said, right, we are going to make some changes towards the end of the game. We're going to make tactical changes, but just believe in them. And yeah, I mean, I got taken off there's a few players that got taken off, and then, so to speak, the young guns, the playmakers came on. And they pulled it off for us. So it was just incredible, the way they just believed in themselves and believed that the players that's going to come on for that last 15 minutes is going to make the difference. And it's exactly what happened. And they came on, and we just absolutely had a great comeback, and to score the try. So, or to win the game, I should say. But it was nerve-wracking sitting on the side, you're watching it, knowing that you were part of 60 minutes of that, so, and see the boys come in and just execute perfectly, and and just get that energy and that belief that we can win this game, and we did. So that was probably one of the best comebacks that I've been involved in.
I watched that match with 2 All Black supporters, actually, so it was very satisfying, as you can imagine.
I can imagine.
And then the week thereafter, against the Wallabies at Ellis Park, we had to win that match in order to make sure that we won the Tri Nations, and we did pull it off. How special was that occasion?
That was very special. I mean, like I say, we went in there with a lot of confidence, especially from the weekend before with that big comeback. We were all on a very high, lots of energy in the team, lots of belief in ourselves. And then, we started that game with a bang, knowing that we just felt it in our gut. We just had this feeling in the team that this is our moment. We got to get it done. And obviously the scoreboard was on our side. So the after parties was unbelievable. So I'll never forget those. Henry Honeyball played a great game that game. It was just it was a phenomenal game and an outcome. And it's like I said, it's standing there lifting the Tri Nations trophy. It's one of those things that every player at the time would like to do, and we were very fortunate to be able to do it.
It was a memorable moment indeed. Now, Andre, after that, we moved on to the end of year tour in 1998. And even though we were still winning, you could see that the performances were not quite the same as we had seen earlier in the year. And again, I've heard from many former Boks about the reasons why. Some people say that it was end of year fatigue. I've actually had Nick Mallard on the show, and he said that the players were tired and he should have rotated the squad, and that might have actually helped to produce better results. I've also heard people talk about Bobby Skinstad and Andre Venter and maybe interference from Alan Solomons. I'd be keen to hear your side of the story.
Yeah, I mean, all those are valid points. I myself as a player, I try not to get involved in too much politics, but there was definitely a change coming off of a high from the Tri Nations. Going into the end year of season. Obviously, again, to our previous point about Francois Pienaar and stuff like that, there was a time where, like, all right, is it now time for Bobby Skinstad to step up? Because he was an impact player off of the bench. Like today's bomb squad. He was a bomb squad by himself. So I think the media played a big role in trying to push for Bobby Skinstad to be a starter instead of an impact player. And, so I think that played a big role with the chemistry in the team, because, as players, you read newspapers and you start almost believing what they're saying, and I think that put some peer pressure on the coaching staff to satisfy the media what the people want to see. They want to see Bobby Skinstad starting, but we as a team believe that Bobby is a better finisher than a starter. But unfortunately, I think guys like Alan Solomons, being a Western Province boy at the time, and Bobby being Western Province, it did cause a lot of conflict in the team. To Nick's point, I'd agreed. I think that would have been a perfect opportunity to bring in some of the younger players coming in, give them some experience and stuff. Because one thing that inspires me is, like, everybody and the media, they're all like, "Oh, you can't play this player because he doesn't have experience." Yeah, but how do you expect him to get experience if he's going to be sitting on the bench the whole time? He's not going to get experience. So put him on the field and let him get experience. And I think that's what happened. I think Nick could have probably brought some of the younger players off of the bench more and let them get experience, So for the future, because obviously we're all getting older, we're not getting younger. But I think, there was quite a few little obstacles that end of year tour, like media pressure, Bobby Skinstad and Andre fighting for positions. And I can't remember, I think it was Gary Teichman, the captain at the time as well. So it was all this whole, the loose trio, the triangle, like the Bermuda Triangle. Who's going to get lost? Is it going to be Andre? Is it going to be Bobby? Is it going to be that? And then obviously there was a little bit of a crack in the coaching staff as well, because one coach wants to do this, the other coach wants to do that. And then you get the other players, myself included, we just stood back and we watched the circus, but we can't do anything about it. We just got to wait until decisions are made, and then we execute. So it was a lot of turmoil at the time, which is sad, but it's unfortunately some of those things that you can't control.
Despite all of that, as we mentioned earlier, the team did win 17 test matches in a row. How incredible was it to be part of something like that?
Well, I've got a tattoo on my body to prove it. So we, it was pretty special. We equaled the record. Unfortunately, we fell short against England on that last game, to go to 18 to break the record. But for a lot of us, it was, for all of us, I think it was very special to be able to do that, knowing that we believe in each other, knowing that we're doing the right thing. So what we are doing is right. I just think it was unbelievable how we turned it around and to be able to do 17 tests in a row. There was a big target on our back. And there was a lot of expectations from everybody's like, oh, are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? Are they going to break the record? Are they going to break the record? And then obviously England, being the underdog at the time, they were like, you know what? We've got nothing to lose. We're just going to go out there and play and stop them from breaking the record. So they had their motivation is to stop us from breaking the record, and we had the motivation of trying to break the record as well. But I think maybe the hype of it's so close maybe got to us, and we or the complacency of, oh, we got this in the bag, it's just another game, so we'll never know exactly whether, but at the end of the day, we lost that game. We didn't play well, I want to say it's also one of the games, I think we got a card in the beginning of the game. One of our players got a card in the beginning of the game. So that automatically was like, oh gosh, it's going to be one of those games. So it put us on a wobble a little bit as a team. And I think we just couldn't recover. And unfortunately we lost, and fair play to England. They came out with the right game plan to put us under pressure, and we couldn't execute.
Unfortunately not. So I've got to ask you, Andre, after that, your opportunities in the Springbok jersey actually became quite limited. Let's start with 1999. How disappointed were you to miss out on the World Cup?
Obviously very disappointed. I was part of the squad, part of the training squad and everything. And then we played the Tri-Nations game at Loftus where I broke my ankle. So it was pretty disappointing knowing that I'm so close. I've got like literally 3 weeks before the World Cup. And then I broke my ankle scoring the try in the corner. It was very disappointing. I knew immediately that was it. My World Cup dreams are gone. There's no way I'm going to recover before World Cup. But even before that, there was a little bit of rumble in the jungle, so to speak, about, again, the politics being a lot stronger in the country, about quota systems, and there's got to be a certain amount of player of color, etc., etc. It started already, and at the time, a lot of player of color was mainly backline players and not so much forward players. And I was getting a little bit older, I was on the later 20 sides of things. So coaches will start looking at the future, which players are going to come through, which players are knocking on the doors and everything. So, and then the coaching staff changed as well. We went through Harry Viljoen and all those things as well. So it got difficult and stuff. I mean, it's not just for me. There was a few other players as well that we had to deal with politics, and it was just sad that you would potentially lose your jersey or your position in the team because of politics, not because of your ability or that you had a bad game or something like that. Put injuries aside, obviously injuries is aside, but just normal day-to-day go-abouts, it was just worrisome that you would be able to lose your position because of your skin color. It was sad, but it's reality. That's where the nation was going to at the time. But you just had to keep on performing and try and outsmart your teammate and hope for you to wear the jersey. So yeah, you're right. I mean, my position got limited, and that's also potentially one of the reasons why, like 3 years later, I started looking at opportunities abroad, because I saw the writing against the wall that they are trying to get rid of some of the more experienced, older backline players and making space for younger colored players.
Before you departed the country, though, in 2001, you got an opportunity again, and you've told us a little bit about Andre Markgraaff, Carl du Plessis, Nick Mallet. It's incredible how many Springbok coaches you played under. What can you tell us about Harry Viljoen?
Harry Viljoen was a businessman. I mean, yes, he knew how to coach rugby, but for me, it was more about his business. It was like he was very distracted with all his businesses that he had and everything, and he tried to run the team as like a business, and it just didn't feel comfortable for me. But again, he's the coach. You got to respect him, and you got to go with his decisions. But yeah, it was a tough one. It was an interesting one. I just couldn't really. I mean, I respected him. Don't get me wrong, but I just couldn't connect with him. I just really struggled to connect with Harry Viljoen. We never had differences. We never had words or anything. It was just because I had such a big idol in Nick Mallet, and I always referred back to Nick because I really, really enjoyed the way Nick was coaching. So any coach after that, you were doomed because I would compare you with Nick. And if you don't do it the way Nick does it, then in my eyes, it wasn't right. So it's a little bit narrow-minded from me with that attitude. But what Nick did to me and the way he made me believe in my game, that was the ultimate way to coach me as a player myself. Other players might have different opinions. But at the end of the day, I had to go with the flow and go with the stream. And then also, I mean, like I said, I saw the writing against the wall for myself. Although I didn't want to give up, I kept on playing. And then, like I say, after my horrific injury in '99 against my ankle, I worked really, really hard to get back in the team. I played 2 games for the Sharks, and then the second game I broke my other ankle, so I was out again. So 2 years pretty much with ankle injuries. Nobody gave me a chance. And I just worked hard, and I got back. And I mean, one thing I'm grateful for Harry is to give me that chance again. After I had that horrific injuries, he gave me an opportunity to play again, and that meant a lot to me because it made me believe that the injuries are over, they're gone, they're in the past, and the fact that I wore the green and gold afterwards, it just proved to me that my character within myself, what I'm capable of, as well as to prove a lot of critics wrong that said Andre will never be back. And then for my future, it created a platform, a springboard for me to go to the next level in abroad.
Rudolf Strauly also gave you a few test caps, just the one, I think it was in 2002, and then a couple in 2003. That included that 52-16 defeat against the All Blacks at Loftus. How much of a low moment was that?
Yeah, that was a low blow. I mean, it was tough for me to connect with Rudolf because we played against each other. He was almost the same age as me. It's the same with Kevin Putt when he was the coach at the Sharks. It was tough for me to connect with those players that used to be my teammates. and now all of a sudden they are my coach. So it was tough for me to connect. Rudolph was a very my way or the highway kind of coach that I didn't like. I didn't like that at all. So it was just not the way I believe that as a player you should have an input as well on the team and how things should be done, because at the end of the day, we are the players we are the people that's on the pitch playing the game. Yes, the coach is on the side of the pitch. You got to guide us, but at the end of the day, we as players, we have got to make the decisions. And as a coach, you need to give the player the right tools to make a decision on the pitch. And I just felt that Rudolph struggled, in my opinion, again, struggled to give me the right tools to make decisions on the field. Now, whether he thought that I have the right tools already, I don't know. But yeah, it was a tough one to get that respect from me to Rudolph, because he used to be a player, and now all of a sudden he's my coach. So yeah, it was tough, and I think a lot of players could have felt that way as well. The way he was running the team, the way he was coaching, his style. It was difficult, to say. I mean, not throwing him under the bus, but when he was a player, he was pretty much a naughty boy. He did a few things, and now all of a sudden he's the coach and he's like the holier than thou, and he doesn't do anything wrong, and he doesn't want us to have a drink after a game, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, hold on a second, but when you were a player, you were the one that drank the most beers, so it's like, come on, dude. And that's where the respect came in. I'm like, anyway, I'm not going to get into too much of that kind of gory detail. But yeah, it was horrible. It was a horrible, horrible game that we lost against the All Blacks, and we got absolutely thumped. I just think leading up to that game, there was just so many disruptions and too many things, and the team wasn't focused. We weren't focused at task at hand.
Did you attend Kamp Staaldraad?
No, I didn't. No.
And I think from what Corne Krige has told me, you literally dodged a bullet. But then I have to ask you, with that in mind, how disappointed were you to again miss out on a Rugby World Cup?
I mean, like I said, it was one of those things where coaches and management would talk to me and say to me, Andre, you're one of the experienced players. We would like you to be part of the group, and then literally the next day they're like, oh, Andre, we think you've played too many games. We got to give the youngers, David Barry and Marius Joubert, we got to give them an opportunity. They are the future and all that stuff. And I'm like, but yesterday you told me that you want me to be part of the team, to be a leader, and you want me to be the stability in the back line. And then the next day you're telling me that I'm too old. It was just a lot of confusion and stuff. And so, yeah, again, I saw the writing against the wall. It was horrible for me, because as a rugby player, your biggest dream is to play in the World Cup, and funny enough, just to take you back a couple of years, in 1995 when it started, played for the Bulls. Kitch Kirsty came to me, and there was one position left in the back line. It was between myself and Brendan Fenter, and so Brendan got the nod, and obviously went to the World Cup 95. At the time, I was 21-year-old. And after the World Cup, Kitch Kirsty came to me and said to me, you know what, Andre, I should have picked you. I was like, really? This is what you're telling me right now? Not taking anything away from Brendan. Brendan is a great, phenomenal player, but don't say that then. Rather just keep quiet. And that was in 95. And then in 99, I broke my ankle. And then in 2003 with Kamp Staaldraad and Rudolph, apparently I was too old, and Marius and those guys had to, now that's the future. And then the next one, when was that? 2007, I was blatantly told in my face that I'm the wrong skin color. And that's why they're not taking me to the World Cup. They had to make space for Odwa and Dongani. So yeah, I could have gone to 4 World Cups, and all 4 of them was decisions out of my control. It was absolutely where everybody said, Andre, you should have been there, but this is the reason why not. And I'm like, So yeah, it was a bitter pill to swallow for me to know that everybody thinks I'm the best player at the time. Everybody thinks I should have been in the team, but the coaches didn't think so. And it was a tough one. So, and then after the 2003, before the World Cup, when Rudolph told me that, Andre, you are my number 13 jersey. You will wear the number 13 jersey. And I'll never forget it. We were at the police college, the old police college in Pretoria, doing a training camp. And I was so excited and everything. And then literally 2 days later, he just walked into my room and he just says, Andre, sorry, you got to go home. And I was like, what? And then all the rumors came out and we had meetings in the management and it was told that, yeah, I'm too old. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one to swallow, that knowing that you've been told that you are one of the first picks and then the next minute you're going home for no reason other than they think you're too old. So it's a tough one, man. But you know what? And that's when I realized I've got to leave this country. I've got to let go. I had my turn. I had my run. I got to pack up my boots in South Africa and just go elsewhere, and then give the youngsters an opportunity to come through and let them go with it. And they are the future. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Like I said, I'm not getting younger at the time. So at some point, you got to retire as a rugby player. And I just decided, you know what, that's it. I'm done with South African rugby. I'm going to go abroad. So in when was it? October, November of 2023. 2003. That's when I went to Leeds and I went overseas and I went and played there for 4 years. And it's probably the best 4 years of my life. I mean, the rugby, the culture, getting to know the English culture. It was just no expectations was placed on me at the time. The coaching staff there at Leeds, they said to me, Andre, you've played at the highest level. We can't teach you anything. I mean, you know everything. All we ask you every Saturday is make a difference. Just make a difference. Just to go out there, make a difference. It was brilliant. I mean, trainings were awesome. I mean, I only had to train like literally twice a week. I mean, where all the other players trained every day. But I had to be at training. But I mean, in terms of my body, they managed my body from how much contact I take during training. So come Saturday morning, I was as fresh as a fiddle, man. I could run for hours. So it was awesome. It was the 4 best years of my life.
That is astonishing, Andre. So I've got to ask you, given that you were too old in 2003, how surprised were you to be called up to Jake White's team in 2006?
Very surprised. I was very, very surprised. And I mean, but I look back at the way I was playing at the time in England. It didn't surprise me that he called me back because I was playing with such passion. I was playing with so much energy. I really enjoyed my game. It was like I was rejuvenated. And it was really, after everything that happened to me in South Africa, the breaking ankles and people think that I'm too old and everything, it was just like, you know what, I'm just going to put it behind me. And, and I bounced back and I found myself again in England. And he called me back. But again, where did he play me? He played me on the wing. And I was like, seriously? I was like, come on. I mean, for 4 years, I've been the top tackler in Europe and England. I've been the top ball carrier in England. I was like in the top 5 of all the categories in club. And now you bring as a center, and now you're bringing me back and you put me on the wing. I'm like, come on, man. And those are the kind of things that players don't want to hear. We don't want to hear that if you play in one position, if you specialize in one position, you don't want to play another position. And I'm a specialized outside center. But again, it's a green and gold jersey. You sacrifice your own ability to wear that jersey. So I was like, okay, we'll play wing. So off I went and I played wing. But I enjoyed it. And then again, politics came in. Jake White told me, Andre, I want you to be one of the leaders in the team, go leading up to the World Cup. You're not going to play any Currie Cup games. You're only going to play Springbok games. We want to try and save your body, etc., etc. Hey, sign me up. I'm done. I'll do that. And then, we were sitting at breakfast, and it came on the news. The Minister of Sport criticized the Springbok management for making decisions. Now, listen to this one: to bring Snyman out of retirement to be part of the Springbok team leading up to the World Cup. So, first of all, I wasn't retired. Second of all, I'm not Snyman. So this is how much the Minister of Sport at the time knew what was going on. And he just came to me and he gave me some lame excuse, saying, "Oh, Andre, we think you've played too much rugby. You're looking a little bit tired. We don't think you're the right fit, and we need to bring in younger players." Again, player of color. And I was like, I just looked at them and I was like, you know what? I just stood up from the breakfast table. I just stood up and I walked out. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm absolutely done with South African rugby. It was just the way that I was treated after everything I've done, putting my body on the line and everything. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm absolutely done. And so I packed up my bags and I went to France. I left and I went to Perpignan for 6 months. I signed a 2-year deal with them, but after 6 months, we had visa issues, etc. So that didn't work out. So I came back to South Africa for like a month or two just to figure out what I'm going to be doing. Am I going to retire? Am I not? And then Leeds picked me up again. And I went back to Leeds. At the time, they were relegated. They were in Division 2. And they were asking me if I could come and help them to get promoted to Division 1. And I said, hell yeah, I'll do that for you guys. I'll come and help. So I went back there for, I think it was like maybe 8 months, 6 months, 8 months. I went back there. I played for them. We got promoted, we got promoted to First Division. And at the time, it was Stuart Lancaster was the coach. And I went to Stuart Lancaster and he offered me another 2-year contract. And I said to him, we really struggled in Division 2 to get promoted. So now we're going to go to Division 1. What are the odds? Have you signed any players? What players have you signed? What signing? He says, oh, no, I'm just going to use local boys. I'm only going to use local players. And I was like, you could hardly win games with the local players at Division 2. And now you want to take the same players and you want to go to Division 1? You're going to get relegated within a year. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't want to finish my career being the wooden spoon. So, and that's when I decided that's it, I'm done. And I'm hanging up my boots. I'm retiring. I think I've had enough. And then so in April of 2007, I just decided that's it, I'm done. I hang up my boots, and that's my career. So it's been a roller coaster, but it gave me a lot of opportunities. I met a lot of people. It's been a hell of a success. I love my career. I won't change it for anything.
Andre, something that my viewers love to know: who was your toughest opponent?
My toughest opponent was probably Tano Manga. Yes, there are probably players that are tougher. Like a Jonah Lomo and Scott Gibbs and all those guys. But for me, Tano Manga, although he's a great friend of mine and we got on along, but he always keep you guessing. With Lomo, you knew he's going to try and run over you. He's powerful. He's going to try and run over you. He's not going to try and sidestep you. He's not going to try and chip over your head. He's not going to do that. So with Scott Gibbs, he's going to hit you hard. He's going to tackle the living daylights out of you. So, but with Tana, he was strong. He was fast. He had the skill. He had the vision. You always had to watch what he's doing. It wasn't just he wasn't just a train on a track. So for me, definitely Tana. Tana was the nicest opponent to play against because he did test your skill. He tested you on defense. He tested you on attack. And the best thing of all is he's such a great human being, which is awesome. It's amazing. So.
And when you watch rugby today, is there a particular player that you admire?
To be honest with you, I don't really watch a lot of rugby at the moment. I've taken a break from it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do watch it, but I don't watch it intensely. The only reason why I watch it every now and again is because I'm a coach at the moment as well. In my spare time, I do a bit of coaching at high school level. So I'm just trying to keep up with what's going on, what's out there, what's a new trend, etc. And I actually deviated from 15s. I'm trying to be a more specialized sevens coach. So I watch a lot of sevens more. I watch more sevens than 15s. But you know what? I mean, I watched the game. I watched the first Ireland game. I didn't watch the second Ireland game. I just watched the highlights. I watched the game against Portugal yesterday. I mean, obviously, it's a completely different South African team. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of youngsters coming through the ranks. You know, there's a lot of youngsters, but I do see the writing against the wall with the starting or the strongest South African team, the team that played against Ireland. If you look at the age of the team, they're going to run into problems because there's a lot of older players that's going to probably retire or move on to Japan or Europe. And the fact that they are bringing in all the younger guys, which is hopefully a good thing. But I don't think there's one player that really stands out to me. I mean, Handré Pollard has always been a solid player. You know, JC Kriel, he's got his moments. You know, he's hot and cold. You know, he's not very consistent, you know, but if he's hot, he's hot, you know, but when he's cold, he's cold. You know, so, you know, Chesney Colby, I mean, I enjoy watching him play. You know, he's my daughter's favorite player. She absolutely loves him. You know, the way she just loves the way he plays. You know, Ebenet's a bit, you know, again, very, very stable, very solid player in the forwards. I mean, I think they've got a good combination going. They've got a good, solid team, you know, but the game has changed. You know, the game has completely changed from the way we played. You know, the sad thing for me is you don't see backline moves anymore. You know, everything is just crash up. And then if it's either a flat ball in the front or it's the ball behind the back. You know, that's basically it. You know, those are the two moves. You don't see the big old DSP and the snipers and all those. You don't see backline moves anymore, which is sad, you know, and that shows you how the game has changed, how the defense patterns have changed, you know. But in terms of the players, I mean, there's the new fly half, this little kid, Zulu, what's his name? I mean, I think he's got a good future ahead of him. I think if injuries keep him safe and healthy, I think he could potentially be the next starting fly half. I think he's really good, you know, so which is positive for South Africa. But yeah, I mean, there's a few new players coming through the ranks, which is good.
So is there a particularly funny moment that you can share with us from your time with the Springboks?
Yes, I can, but I'm not going to mention names there because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But there's a situation, I'll never forget it. We were in New Zealand, sitting there. We played the game. I think it was a Wednesday morning. In those days, Wednesday was our off day, you know. So Tuesday nights, we normally had one or two adult beverages, you know, and I don't think the players are doing that anymore because they are super professional. In our days, we weren't that professional. So anyway, Wednesday morning, we're sitting at the breakfast table. Some of us a little bit hangover, a little bit of a headache here and there, you know, and we're all sitting there. And this one particular player comes marching in, but like literally 5 minutes before the kitchen closes, and he comes and sits down. And all of us, all the other players, we've had our breakfast and we're nice and full, and we're just sitting there chatting and everything. And this one particular player comes down, but a hangover like you can't believe, man. And he sits down at the table, and the waitress comes over, and she says, "Good morning, sir. What would you like?" And he says, "Can I please have bacon and eggs?" And she's like, "Okay, fine." And she goes away, and she comes back later, and she says, "Excuse me, sir. The kitchen says we don't have any bacon left, but we can give you a double portion of eggs." And he took a while. He sat there for like 5 seconds thinking. And he turns up and he looks at her like this. He says to her, "We are in New Zealand. There's 24 million sheep. And you're telling me there's no bacon?" So yeah, he obviously yeah. Anyway, so that was I never laughed so much in my life. I was like, come on, man. So yeah, bacon's from pigs, not sheep.
Indeed, the case. Classic story. Let me ask you, Andre, final question. What are you up to these days?
So nowadays, like I briefly said, I live in Denver, Colorado. So we've been living here since 2011. We decided to come to America, or they asked me at the time to come to America, a specific club here in Colorado to help them with their rugby program and to start up a sevens program. They already had a 15s program, so I joined them and I started up a 15s program for men. It was pretty successful. And then from there on, I helped them with the 15s program because sevens are only playing, and it's a summer sport. So the rest of the year, I would be like a technical advisor for the 15s team. And things just worked out for me, and we ended up staying here. We got our citizenship and everything. The whole family is now American. So we are true African Americans. We are born in Africa, but we are Americans. So just that's my party joke, by the way. What I'm up to right now, I'm a construction manager for Lennar, one of the second biggest residential builder in the country. I'm a project manager, as in South Africa's term. So we just build residential homes. That's my real job. And then I still coach. I'd stepped away from coaching adults because what happened was while I was coaching adults, there came a point where my children was playing rugby, and I would not be able to see them play because I was busy coaching the adults. So I had to make a decision. So I stepped away from coaching adults and I started coaching kids. At school level. Started at the age of like 7, 8 years old, coaching them. And obviously my kids are now in high school. So now I'm coaching high school kids. So I'm coaching my son and my daughter. Which is it's an amazing experience to coach them. But it's challenging. It's really challenging because sometimes as a kid, they want that father figure. They want the pat on the back, and they want their dad to say to them, "Hey, it's okay, you can do it." But as a coach, I've got to be critical. I've got to tell them, "Hey, what did you do wrong? What did you do right?" So it's a fine line between being a coach and a dad, which is tough. It's probably one of my biggest tests that I have to play is being a dad and a coach at the same time. But I'm loving it. I absolutely love it. The family is doing really well. We're loving Colorado. We're loving America. Everything works here. It's a very convenient country. So we're really enjoying it here. The last time we were back in South Africa was 2016. So we're due for a visit again. So we're planning on probably coming to South Africa in the next 2 years or so. It's just expensive. There's 4 of us flying. So it's quite expensive for the air tickets and stuff. But yeah, like I said, that's what we're doing right now. The wife has got a good job. The kids are having fun at high school. They're doing really, really well. Both of them in their sport. My daughter is actually going to the Irish Academy in 2 weeks' time to go and play rugby there. So she's been selected to go play in the Irish Academy. I'm going with as a guest coach. So I'm going to be enjoying coaching there as well. My son is a good track and field athlete as well as a rugby player. So yeah, it's been fun. That's where we are. We're stuck in America.
And being in Denver, I must ask you actually, Andre, have you taken a liking to the Broncos or the Nuggets or the Rockies by any chance?
Well, definitely not the Broncos. I'm really struggling to get in any football team, not just the Broncos. I struggle to watch football because of, first of all, I don't really understand the game or know the game. And then secondly, yes, they're great athletes. Don't get me wrong. They're super duper athletes, but they're prima donnas. So it's like they're getting paid way too much money for 4 seconds because that's all they do. They play for 4 seconds, then they rest, and they play for 4 seconds, and then they rest. So yeah, neither here nor there. I mean, I'm not a big football fan. Baseball, not at all. I'm not a big baseball fan. Basketball, not a big basketball fan. The only team that we as a family supports is every now and again we'll go watch the Avalanche, which is the ice hockey team. We quite enjoy that, and the reason why, we love the atmosphere. The atmosphere in the arena is amazing. You know, it's vibey. You know, so but we don't support them like we'll wear their jerseys or anything. Not that kind of support. We just watch the game. So yeah, it's sad, but we are still a South African family, and we don't support a lot of American sports because we didn't grow up with it. We don't understand it. We don't play it. So that's why both my kids, they play rugby, they do track and field, and that's it, because that's what we did in South Africa. So we're struggling to get into the whole American sports and the vibe and everything. And probably one of the biggest things we struggle with here in America is their barbecues. Okay, so for us in South Africa, we call it obviously a braai, okay, where you put T-bone steaks and rump steaks and boerewors on the grill and everything. But here, if you've been invited to a barbecue, it's burger patties and hot dog sausages. So it's not the same. It's not the same. So that's one thing we're trying to still get used to, is the fact that they call a barbecue or braai hamburger patties and hot dog rolls. No, that's not a braai, you know. So we got a good South African group here in Denver, Colorado. We've got about, I would say, maybe 6 or 7 families, you know, that we're pretty close. We always get together to watch the Springboks play whenever they play, and then we have a proper braai. We put some meat on the grill and everything. So we relive South Africa a little bit, you know, although we're here in America. But yeah, it's been fun. It's challenging, but it's been fun. We absolutely love it. Yeah.
Very cool indeed. Andre, we're going to finish with the trivia question. In 2002, the Springboks played a test match at the PAM Brink Stadium in Springs. Who were the opponents that day? Do you know the answer, Andre?
I'm going to take a wild guess and say Scotland.
Not a bad guess, but the correct answer actually is Argentina. And I know that you didn't play in that one, but you would have been involved sort of, I think it was before that you might have played against Wales under Rudolf Strauly, and then they played Samoa and they played Argentina. Andre, let me say that it was wonderful having you on Front Row Rugby today. An incredible story that you have, and thank you so much for sharing those fascinating stories with us. And I really hope we can have you on again in the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Peter. You have a lovely day.
Last time on Front Row Rugby, I had 2-time world champion Oster Runt on the show. You can go and watch that video. It's appearing on your screen right now. Next time, we'll have Tri-Nations winner Brent Russell here.